Hello YouTube, welcome to my review of The Flash Speed Force issue 1. This issue, the cover of this issue really wants you to know it's an issue 1. It has issue 1 written on it in red. It's got 01 rated blah blah blah, and then it's got this big thing saying 100 pages, and the whole thing teases everything in it. The origin of the Flash, guest starring Green Lantern, enter Mob Rule, Speed Force, and there's this big panel of the Flash running towards the viewer in a burst of electricity, and it's a very vibrant cover. It might be slightly overcrowded, especially with this unnecessary Flash in the corner, where in all of my other DC comic books the DC logo normally is. In this case, the DC logo is right down here, and it's really teeny tiny. But it's letting you know a lot about what's going on, and I rather like it as a cover, though it is a bit overcrowded. We start off with generally the typical Flash origin story, but with a sort of twist. Basically, he's going to a sports day. He comes home. He's kind of being picked on by these people. And on his way back, he comes home to find his mother murdered and his father standing over her. And the whole thing talks about how he becomes a forensic scientist. He has a very lonely childhood, I will say. He becomes a forensic scientist and he becomes the Flash. And it's a well-written origin story. I don't have any complaints about it. I do feel like it skims a lot. I mean, we don't see him putting on the costume for the first time. We don't see who his first villains are. We don't see if he gets any help or anything. I mean, one thing I'd have thought they would have done, considering this does say June-July 2015 on the cover. Can you see that? I can't tell if you can see that. The one thing I'd have thought they'd have done is at least try to add some connection with the Flash TV show by potentially adding some of the characters from that in. But there is a character who appears a little later that's kinda similar. But yeah, this is the first Flash book I've ever read, if I'm honest. So then we go to the chase, as they call it. Only they don't, because it's weird. They put the title cards at the end of this story and then followed it immediately at one page in on this story. It kind of makes it a bit confusing as to where different stories start and where different stories end. But we start off with this Barry and Hal Jordan sitting down, and they get abducted by aliens. And then there's this whole backstory of them rescuing some children and ending up with Hal Jordan being forced to make an agreement on how they're going to get on. Basically, he's forced him and the Flash to enter a death match. It's absolutely fantastic. The ideas behind this, they are so creative. There's a few other stories in here. I'm not going to go through all of them. All I'm going to say is they are very creative ideas. Each story has a different art style, and we really get to know a lot of these characters. For an issue 1, it does introduce the characters very well, but there is a little bit of, and there's also some very emotional scenes with this guy who loses his daughter in one of the stories, and then who decides he's going to blow up a building. For goodness sake, laptop, your battery is not low. Sorry. Sorry. But there's so many different issues, and there's this other guy called Dr. Elias, who gets introduced in the third or fourth story. Gets introduced in the third story. Actually, there's a thing at the end of the second story. No, sorry, at the end of the third story, there's a really weird scene where it just goes over some random characters, and I'm not sure who they are. They never appear before in the issue. They just sort of appear in this, over these panels with this woman going in to see a violinist, and they've never appeared earlier on in the issue. They just sort of appear here, and there's no explanation for them. I mean, the only thing I can tell is that the old woman in the panel might be this old woman he ran past. But do we really need to see what happens to the old woman he ran past? And, I don't know. The guy who was homeless there is now running a recycling centre. It's kind of weird. And it's not really explained why they're doing this. It just sort of... It's like a random ending full of lots of characters we know nothing about, have never seen before because this is an issue 1, and will probably never see again, so have absolutely no investment in. So it seems very pointless. There's also a kind of cool dialogue with him and with the Flash and Patty in the 4th story, because apparently Patty is his girlfriend in this continuity rather than Iris West, and Iris West does appear in this book. She's kind of annoying, really, but she isn't as annoying as this. To be continued on the next page. Literally, they put to be continued, and then it continues on the next page with another intro page. Who ordered this comic? Who thought? And there's all these random introductions to the character, like DC Comics proudly presents. You already presented him. And there's so many times in this where, like, when they feel a need to start the story, they feel this strange need to give the Flash's backstory in the introduction. Look, this one here does it. There's just... I get the impression what they've done here is make this an anthology book. They've decided for the first issue to just stick a lot of stories together that were supposed to be in other comics, especially the one that says to be continued. That was clearly supposed to be at the end of another book, and they just thought, we'll stick these ones together because they're alright, and just make them work somehow. But then they don't do that, because the end of the last story, it's a very interesting story, the last story, actually. One of his friends from before he became the Flash, is now, he has lots of clones that are trying to kill him, and they've captured him, and there's lots of strange stuff going on, and he, like, rushing to find his friend, and then it says, to be continued in Justice League Trinity number 9, out on the 23rd of July. Why would you have a story in the Flash Speed Force continue in Justice League Trinity? Why wouldn't you just finish it in the Flash Speed Force number 2? Why are you making me go to another book that I haven't been reading and know nothing about? Furthermore, Justice League Trinity is on issue 8 at the moment, and that says that there's even more about the origin story of the Flash in that. So why didn't you just include the stuff about the Flash's origin in this book, move one of these stories that wasn't really needed where it was into the next book, and then put the end of that story in this book? Or put the end of that story in The Flash issue 2, rather than have it in issue 1. Rather than have it in Justice League Trinity, which is only going to... Actually, yeah, that's quite clever. It's going to make me want to buy Justice League... It's going to make me have to buy Justice League Trinity, just so I can find out what happens at the end of this, and then I'm going to buy issue 2, and I'll spend more money on a comic book I didn't need. Thanks, DC. Thanks for evil marketing. yeah. So, also, is it just me, or does the guy who plays the Flash in the TV show look nothing like the Flash in the books? With that said, I did find the tone of the show very similar to what the tone of this is. And I think that this Dr. Elias seems very similar in what he said. He's trying to make him faster, but he made him think faster instead. Actually, I think that's a bit of a plot hole, because I'm sure we saw him thinking faster in an earlier story to when he said, I can make you think faster. But he kind of seems very similar to Harrison Wells, so I'm going to see if he turns out to have some evil thing to do with his mother's death, because they go into a lot of that, and a lot of things to do with his relationship with his father in this parallel very strongly with what we've seen in the TV show. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to buy issue 2. I'm irritated that I have to buy Justice League Trinity as well. So, there we go. The Flash Speed Force issue 1 reviewed. That's my opinion. Thanks. Oh, also feel free to like and subscribe or comment. Or even dislike if you want, whatever.